Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Jen, and here's her story. Hello, Ollie. My name is Jen. I've been watching your channel for over a month. I am very thankful for your videos, as they have helped me to see the narcissist's manipulative tactics. I wanted to share some of my childhood stories, as I could write novels about that mess. Please know this is not easy to write. Where to start? Here are some of my background in relation to the trauma I experienced as a child. The three caretakers in my life all abused me. My biological father molested me until the age of 8. After going to court against my father, I didn't see him again until I was 15. He had remarried another woman, so my mother felt comfortable sending us to our father's house to a visit. What? So 7 years after he molested you, you had to go to court? Your mother just, what? After that visit, my father committed suicide, and I had a lot of guilt because I thought it was my fault for a long time. About 6 years ago, I addressed this at a counseling session. She helped me to see that I was not the reason for his decision. My mother has not been diagnosed with BPD, but meets the criteria. For what I have researched and learned about the characteristics and behaviors of this personality disorder. My mother is emotionally distant, and her love is contingent on my obedience and my obedience to her tactics of control. As a child, she used gaslighting techniques to make me doubt my feelings, beliefs, and thoughts. I always thought I was always wrong in how I felt, what I thought, and how I responded. I was made to feel shame for my private thoughts I wrote in a journal. My boundaries were constantly annihilated in every way possible. And, you learn, I learned early on, but the mistake a lot of people on this channel make, and it's not even a mistake, it's a mistake in regards of living under the same roof as a narcissist, is writing any of your private thoughts down anywhere. I mean, it's why my walls in my bedroom when I was a kid were barren, because anything put up would have been criticized to be torn apart. Okay, and when you write your thoughts down in a journal, your private thoughts, I mean, it's their gold mine. It's their Bible. It's their holy grail. Your journal is the narcissist's holy grail that they can hold on, and it's just shines as they open it up, and the supply they get out of reading it. I mean, there are few supplies I think the narcissist gets out of that tops that one. Your journal is their holy grail. My boundaries were constantly annihilated in every way possible. I was forced to be home during the week, playing mommy to my younger sibling, consulting the checklist for my daily house chore, cooking dinner, preparing lunches for my younger sibling and myself for school the next day, and was still able to get my homework done, study for my exams, and practice the clarinet for a half hour nightly before going to bed. I was rarely able to go out with my friends on the weekend, and when I did, my room was ransacked. I was grounded for any minor offense, and then later shamed that I only sit around the house and never go out with my friends. They love it. It's like it's a prison, and that's what happens when they go and they toss your cell. They're looking for contraband. Well, contraband in our lives to the narcissist is anything that would give you independence from them or any type of identity. That's their contraband. They toss your room like a cell. My mother wanted me to be a mindless puppet who worshipped her as a god, being obedient, grateful, independent, on her every command. When I did not conform to her will, I was physically, emotionally, and mentally abused by her. What I wanted or who I wanted to be was not considered, supported, or good enough. I was instructed on how to dress, how to wear my hair, when and how much makeup I was allowed to wear, which of my friends I was permitted to be around, and who I could and couldn't date. I was encouraged to read the Ladies' Book of Etiquette to adopt its instruction on how to be a proper, ladylike, and to know my place in a relationship. Mind you, this is a book from the 1950s. She was hell-bent on keeping me on track with her plan for my life. Her plan was for me to graduate college, become a Christian music teacher, and to marry a pastor. I began to rebel at 19 as I had no interest in continuing her plan for my life. My plan was to continue my education at the community college, change my major to creative writing, find a new job that would give me experience with writing, continue seeing the man she didn't know I was dating, and start making plans to find my own place. My mother became livid after I talked with her and my stepfather about my alternative plans. I finally built up the courage to introduce my boyfriend to them as well. Immediately after my boyfriend left, my mother punished me to my room, making me stand for hours, coming in periodically to demean me and hit me. You were in college and she's still able to do that to you, huh? She made the decision I was to call my boyfriend and break up, quit my job where we both work, continue my music major, go to college in Minnesota in the fall, and over the summer I would be staying with my grandmother in Florida to put some distance between me and my boyfriend. She drove me over to my job where my boyfriend was working, and I was made to publicly break up with him in front of everyone. I tell management I quit and return my uniform. After this public humiliation, I was sent back to my room for more punishment. Why would you do this in college? Why would you do this in college? Why? I had been paying for my college courses, and that night was the end of my college semester. I pleaded with my mother to allow me to go perform in front of an audience for my orchestra final. I was also supposed to take my PE final for badminton. She refused to let me go. What do you mean refused? Like, if you had walked out, isn't it so she would have locked you out, thrown you out, right? The next day, my boyfriend met me at college and talked me into leaving, in which I never looked back. As you can guess, this decision led to another toxic relationship to be discussed at another time. He may have been toxic, but he did you a favor. He did you probably the biggest favor he could ever have done for you. What he should have done was stood up for you at your job and stopped the public humiliation. But that might be a topic for another time, as you said. My stepfather has not been diagnosed with NPD, but has many of the characteristics and behaviors I have read about and researched. My stepfather wanted to be in a relationship with my mother, but didn't want any children. He made the decision to make it permanent a couple years ago after marrying my mother. The reason I know this information is because it was shared with me by my mother at age 10. My mother told me my stepfather was getting a vasectomy as she cried. This is only one of the many inappropriate conversations with my mother I had at developmental ages that were not appropriate for the content shared. At times I felt like she wanted me to be her priest, absolving her sin at confession. My stepfather had no clue how to raise and nurture children, nor did he want to. I constantly felt like I was walking on eggshells around him, as anything would set him off, and a firm backhand would be immediate and repeated future response for any perceived slight that ruined his morning routine, ages 9 to 10. If another guy that wasn't my father put his hands on me or my child, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. What parent lets somebody who's not even their parent put their hands on their child. Someone who doesn't even want to have a child with you, with your mother, but will let him beat up on you. Here's the only question I would ask about your natural father. Okay? And I don't know, okay, if this could be the case or not. Okay? But if you distinctly and succinctly know the molestation happened, then fine. But if you're not, you may have to consider, are these thoughts that your mother put into your head? And that's where the guilt came from. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But being the type of borderline control freak your mother is, it is definitely in her wheelhouse to do something like that. I felt like an inconvenience and burden to him, like my mere presence was a reminder of the responsibility he did not want. My stepfather did everything in his power to make sure we knew that he was the priority in my mother's life, and my mother made sure we knew that as well. As the years went on, the physical and emotional abuse continued. My stepfather became the punisher for over 5 years, ages 11 to 16, as my mother was not getting the anticipated fear and tearful results she wanted when spanking us for our misdeeds. So then why were you listening to her in college? She was, however, clever in letting us know over the phone we were in big trouble and to wait in our room until they got home to decide what our punishment would be. I remember sitting in my room for hours just waiting to get my punishment over with. It was torture as I waited until they got home. When they would get home, they would walk up and down the hallway outside my closed bedroom door, causing me to become anxious while I was waiting for them to barge in and declare it was time for the punishment to begin. I was initially interrogated, then received a 2-hour-long lecture about my atrocious behavior, followed by a description of the rules for taking my spanking, and then determined the number of lashes was spoken, and out came the punishment weapon from the drawer. Finally, my stepfather, who lifted weights and played racquetball at the gym religiously, I bet he did. I bet that's not all he was doing at the gym religiously, stated, "This will hurt me more than it hurts you." He paddled my bare ass as hard as he could with a wooden cutting board until I couldn't feel my ass anymore unless I tried to sit. Wow. So a woman, so let me get this straight. Let me get this straight here. A woman, your mother, who had taken your father to court, had been to court over molesting you, is now letting some strange fucking side dick that she hooked up with pull your pants down and physically assault you. Does that make sense? Not to me. I remember the event that resulted in my stepfather no longer physically punishing us. This does not mean the mental and emotional abuse did not continue, however. My mother and stepfather had some errands to run that would take them a few hours. My stepfather and mother wanted my younger sibling and I to work on uprooting the dandelions in the yard and said if we were done by the time they got back, they would take us out for lunch. My younger sibling and I worked tirelessly in the yard full of dandelions, only taking a couple of breaks to get water to drink. We had half of the front yard, 68 by 90 feet, done by the time they returned 4 hours later. My stepfather was very disappointed, was not done, and began to rant about how we lazy kids weren't working on the yard like we said we were. We insisted we had and said it was hard to get the roots up. My mother used the gardening tool we used to uproot the dandelion and agreed it was difficult. She confirmed our claims to my stepfather and asked him to try. My stepfather said, is it going to make me Superman if I try? My mother said, well, why don't you bend down and try to get this root up? My stepfather grabbed my mother by the hair, pulled her to her feet, and drug her through the front yard. He's gay. He hates women. He's gay. He's gay. He's a closeted homosexual. That's why he likes beating women. That's why he probably doesn't have sex with your mother. Probably wasn't even having sex with her all that much. She was a beard. Your mother and the family was a beard for his latent homosexuality. This is how closeted. He's the borderline here, by the way. They're both borderlines. He's a borderline. His cruelty, he thinks like a woman. He is a woman in a man's body. And when a woman challenges the woman in the man's body, they become violent. They become nuts. And the woman in the man's body hates little girls more than anything. My stepfather grabbed my mother by the hair, pulled her to her feet, and drug her through the front yard into the garage and was going through the side door to get her into the house when my younger sibling tried grabbing a shovel to hit my stepfather but missed, and my stepfather locked the door so we couldn't get in. About a half hour later, an ambulance was backing into our driveway, and a few minutes later, they were putting my mother in the back of the ambulance to go to the hospital. Closeted gay rage. That's what that was. And it's always at women. When they snap like that, they snap on women who challenge them. Are you sure it was your natural father? Are you sure? Later, the story we heard from my mother was my stepfather released his grip of her hair. They screamed at each other, and my mother went into the basement to get a suitcase for us to leave. My stepfather kept blocking her way to getting up the stairs, and somehow my mother lost her footing on the stairs and hit her head off the uncarpeted part of the floor at the bottom of the basement stairs. Yeah. I found my mother at the bottom of the basement stairs, too. Okay, remember that call? With her foot going one way and her ankle going out the other way. And my father standing at the top of the basement stairs. Yeah, she tripped down the basement stairs too. She was diagnosed with a severe head concussion. There's carpet at the bottom of the basement stairs and at least a foot of carpet at the bottom of the stairs to the uncarpeted area. The real story has never come to light. He tossed her down the fucking steps and beat the shit out of her. That's the real story. You don't need, please, you don't need Perry Mason or Columbo to get to the bottom of that one. My mother, younger sibling, and I moved away from my stepfather for at least a year, and when we went back there was no further physical abuse from him. That was left to my mother. There were so many more stories I could have added, but feel this paints enough of a picture to understand the dysfunction I grew up in with these three individuals with BPD and NPD tendencies. I have never received an apology from my stepfather. He acts as if nothing happened. I did make the mistake of confronting my mother 6 years ago about my childhood traumas before I understood the behaviors associated with BPD. This was met with a public display of her getting on her knees at my feet at McDonald's for all to see, in which she said she was not a good mother and apologized with waterworks, begging for my forgiveness. I was so embarrassed, I asked her to stop. When she sat back down, I apologized for any actions that she felt I did that were hurtful to her. Why? In a snarling voice, she said, "Your apology is not needed, and you should be." That was the end of our visit, and it would be a long time until I spoke to her again. I hear from her now and then, but I am expected to make the effort to reach out to her. I have no interest. Thank you for your channel, Ollie. It helps us to have the courage and desire to want to bring awareness to these toxic individuals, to bring awareness of these toxic individuals to the light and allow us a safe place to be able to share our stories so we can collectively heal. May you and Charlene be blessed. Sincerely, Jen. Jen, listen, you know better than I what happened between you and your natural father, but it is completely possible, because it is in your mother's wheelhouse, that she made that whole thing up and might have put it in your head. Now, if you're sure that's not what happened, then fine. That's not then she's just attracted to fucking perverts because she's a borderline dysfunctional person. Your stepfather, however, hates women. Closeted homosexual. So as soon as you said the lifting weights and racquetball, knowing listen. And how he was ordering you around, it all falls in line. That's not all he was doing at that gym. I promise you. That was the borderline on the down low. Okay, when a woman challenges them, the woman in the man's body, they will fucking become violent. That's why they like beating on little girls. They like hurting little girls. That's why you didn't want to have any kids with your mother. And that's why when he was challenged by a woman in front of two other girls that he's trying to control, no, he can't have that. Rage takes over, and he fucking snapped, tossed her down the basement stairs. That's what happened, and that's what you're dealing with. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for your contribution and your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype or a phone call, or have a private video made, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance.